I am shown 1 o'clock, but I'll give everyone just a little extra minute. And again, if you see a little window on your screen somewhere requesting you accept to be a panelist, if you go ahead and click that, that'll let you join dynamically with the conversation. It doesn't really put you into any other category to have to do anything demanding. All right, well, I'm showing 1:01 here local time for the Dallas area, so I'll go ahead and start the meeting. I am Kim Sheldon. I'm a project manager at CKC Consulting. I'm not Courtney Kearney as it appears in the bottom of the screen, but I have been working with her for quite a while and had the opportunity to lead a few of these calls. So what I enjoy about them is everybody kind of gets a chance to weigh in on their personal experiences and we all can learn from that. These talks are called the CRM Chat, and they are this year centered around the CRM or Die book that Courtney Kearney and Chas Ross Monroe wrote. And it came out last year, maybe January of this year. And what we've been doing each month is tracking through the book. Today is a discussion about chapter 8, but it is not a problem at all if first you did not know there was a book. Second, you knew there was a book, but you haven't really read it yet. Or third, you started reading it, but you're not too far through it. You're welcome. The experience that we talk about on these calls is based in what the chapter topic is. However, it is truly on CRM as a whole and not so much a quiz about what they wrote. That said, there are questions that help us kind of work through the chapter. I'm going to drop those in right now. First, I'll drop a link in case you are interested in the book. It's going to steer you to the CKC Consulting CRM or Die page. And then there are going to be a list of questions. Let me go ahead and enter on that. Y'all should see that in your chat. If your chat's not open, it should be at the bottom of the screen there, and a long bubble would have opened. And the way we will work through today is I'll introduce myself, and then we'll go around the folks who are on the call and explain your name, what firm you're with, what geographic location you're in, as well as if you do have a copy of the book and have read it. So again, I will start with me being Kim Sheldon, project manager at CKC Consulting, and I also have about 15 years of proposal development experience. So that's how it all ties together for my history. I am in the North Texas suburb of McKinney, and my joke on that is that in bad traffic, I'm closer to Oklahoma than I am to downtown Dallas. I do have a copy of the book as one of the lucky ones being on Courtney's team that we were able to read it before it became a real live thing. So that's very exciting. But that's a little about me. I'll go around just as I see names. And Natalie, it appears there's 2 of you, but if y'all want to just explain who you are, your firm, where you are in the world.
Yeah, Nancy was trying to get on, so she jumped in with me. So I'm Natalie Price. I'm the manager of the Marketing Information Services Group. I work for Krause Anderson, and we are in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Okay, great.
And I'm Nancy Miller. I'm part of the marketing department as well.
Wonderful. Obviously in Minnesota, otherwise that's one great connection you guys have there because you are right there. Gail, if you don't mind introducing yourself, please.
Yeah, my name is Gail Maldonado. I am with HR Green and am the CRM database manager. So kind of managing the data and the tools the team used to track everything in Aurora, Illinois. And yeah, part of the corporate marketing group.
Wonderful. Have you had the book or did you learn of the book recently?
I have been I've been suggested the book and told actually that someone was sending me a copy, though I have not yet received it. So I'm excited to read it.
Wonderful. Well, I'm going to go ahead and make a note about your name because we may just need to be confirming your address. Sometimes that takes a little extra time, but
yeah, no problem.
It will be a good read whenever you get it. And we're continuing these all the rest of the year, so you can jump in whenever you get there with the book. Denise, could you introduce yourself, please?
Hello, everybody. My name is Denise Yancey, and I'm the database administrator for the marketing group here at Atna in Alaska. And we use our database every day, every hour, almost every minute. It's really made a difference in the way we do business. We're much more productive now. We're still getting some of the bugs out of the transitioning our financial data connector. But once that's done, we have projects in there and usable, then we're going to be really, really happy. And Courtney's been really, really helpful with that.
Well, thank you. Yep. He makes a huge difference, but yeah, the implementation and just getting those bugs worked out sometimes tests the patience, but yeah, it does. The streamlining will be there in the future for sure. And the final person I see is an attendee, Erica. If you could introduce yourself, please.
Hi, I'm Erica Curtis. I'm in marketing and communications at CKC, and I'm here in Portland, Oregon. Yes, and I have read the book.
Wonderful. Well, as I said to the folks who joined early, we have a wonderful rainstorm going on in Dallas, which we have not had in months. So I'm super excited. But if that noise carries into the microphone, let me know and I can mute myself a little bit. But it's just exciting. There's water falling from the sky. I know Erica's like, yeah, that's great. We get that a lot. But yes, so if you saw in the chat there, I did include a link to the CRM or Die page within the C. Kearney Consulting website, and there are resources online for each of the chapters that kind of go beyond the book, so that is a good tool to look into from time to time. There are some different assessments and things you can do in conjunction with moving through the process of the book. But as I've said, chapter 8 that we are on is called Execute Your Vision. And so throughout the book, Courtney and Chaz include case studies and walk through different elements as far as determining if a CRM is the right decision, what is your team implementation plan, and different tools to get you to this point. But I love the first question that she included, which I'll read for you, but it's there in the chat. Are you using your integrated CRM solution as a tool to help your staff, knowing that client relationship management is about process and people, not just a piece of technology? And that's hugely, hugely important that she collectively, the authors, stress, which is, the system are the people. And if you happen to find a tool that helps streamline some things and produce some workflows, that is fabulous. But does everyone on the call have a CRM system? I know, Denise, you've mentioned that, but there is a system in place. So to this first question, do you all find that it is a tool that is helping the staff at this stage?
Oh, yeah.
Yep. And do you have it open during specific meetings? Denise, you said it's pretty much every hour, every minute. Do you find that sort of company-wide with the business development opportunity side, or which roles within the company are using it actively?
Well, right now it's mainly the marketing team and the management team, the upper management team, because we don't have enough licenses, and that's a problem.
Yeah.
This will be a lot more effective once we get everyone who needs one a license. Then
Right.
They can start putting in all the minutia that we have no way of doing, but they do.
Right. That's wonderful. So are they logging in and they're interacting within your system currently? Mm-hmm. They do that? That's yep. Wonderful.
We just had one of our environmental managers submit RFP, and he did he created the record for it and did everything himself.
Aren't you proud?
Yeah, he was too.
They do listen to the training, yeah. Deal. Well, and those type of things, and it'll be a later question, but there's sort of about a little bit of rewarding the milestones and celebrating those wins. So that's a huge win. So that's great. Gail and Natalie team, are you all finding that people are using this system that you guys have in place?
They are, and not everybody has a license, but they know to come to us. And sometimes we do not want them to always fly. They are, as hard as you tell them to do things, capital S, capital F per square foot or whatever it is, but they know to come to us, and they are some of our executives, BD, all of our marketing. So we have about 50 some license. And they are, I mean, they are getting it. So they'll come and can you run a report of projects that we've done with Pope architects before going to a meeting? And this may be a PM who won't ever get that. And I found it quite interesting. One of our newer BD guys. So we're really, really heavy into K through 12 education as a market sector that we do a lot of work in. And one of our new BD guys who's with the commercial group wanted me to run a report on, you know, our top, we'll say 5 or 10 metro school districts that we've done work, because he's going to go and investigate the school board members and are any of them in manufacturing and different things like that. So it's like, yay, thank you for doing that. And I wouldn't have thought of it. So.
Oh, that is good. Yeah.
So,
and then being able to trust what's in there. I think that's another part is they're coming to you and they believe what you're giving them will be the list they're going to start with for their research. They're not just, you know, going online or something crazy.
Right. Yep. Getting them to trust took our executives a very long time, dollars and dates. So we're finally there.
Oh, that's exciting. And Gail, do you have anything to add with your experience?
Yeah, I would say we're, you know, in the middle on the projects and putting in pursuits and things like that. I think the team does a really good job. Where we're new is leveraging the client information. So the intel, right now, it's all in their brain. And so right now, kind of the second half of this year, we'll be implementing sort of that part of the CRM. We're getting it out of their brain and into a system where they can share it across the company.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And I know different platforms behave differently, but somehow if you can associate a certain contact to a project or a company, you know, then you kind of have your go-to in-house if you're needing to verify information or you want to touch base. It just, that network, of course, is so valuable with what some of these programs can do. We kind of touched on the second question there, which is, do your employees have access to a unified data set and understand the story the data is telling? And that, when I read that, I think of things like the dashboard, the way that the data is published out. Courtney did a talk that I believe the recording from it is on our website just recently on this chapter. And she was talking about, like, if there's a funnel, for example, if there's a system and, you know, one leader of the company might look at it and say, oh, they're all the same size. That must mean we have equal amount in each section. And yet when you realize your product or tool that you're using, maybe they're always going to appear no matter what stage it's in. It'll just look, even if there's one opportunity, it'll still look as wide as when you have 50 opportunities. So really the story the data is telling. So do you all run into either confusion, or do you run into really clear stories with the data that you guys share with the employees?
Yeah, I think that's something that we're learning we need to leverage in the new, and we have sort of a new upgraded system. And so with dashboards is really, you know, how do we set the baseline story with the company so that when they do look at this data, they do understand what it is? Because I agree. I think they're so used to sort of getting the data they wanted and manipulating it in Excel to say what they wanted it to say.
Yeah.
Instead of all of us looking at the same set of metrics the same way. So yeah, work in progress there, but it's so hugely important.
And definitely, even if it's an understanding of, you know, for us to win a certain amount of work, we'd all love to think everything we submit on, we win. That'd be so easy, 1 for 1, but it's not. So, you know, realizing to win X percentage, the pipeline at the top, of course, a funnel shape would have to be quite large, but what does that mean to each person or each sector or each, you know, account representative? It's recognizing how big each section must be, or if some things have been in a stage for a long time and it was submitted, who's retouching just to make sure that, you know, it has not been selected. You know, if it's taking a long time, is there any additional information, you know, that kind of stuff. So that's what I think of as far as the storytelling, because data for data's sake is not the point. It's to get the analysis moving forward. Does anyone else have anything to add on that point?
We've made a point of offering to help every single user who has it and is a user to set up their dashboard for them, because an environmental remediation guy has different needs than a construction guy, has different needs than a manager, has different needs than a marketer. So, I mean, it's easy enough to just, and do it virtually. You don't have to go over to their chair anymore. Yay. And you can make it so that they're happy. So they get to the point where they say, that's great. I like that. That's what I want to hear. That makes my day when I hear that, when they're happy.
That's a huge point, because the marketers, I would think, would be mainly concerned if they're on the proposal side of the house, what is coming due and what stage and what may have an interview. There's just all that forward thinking. And then somebody working more with the capture plan at the early stages may need something that's just in the concept stage, or, for example. So giving each user the ownership of the information they want. When they first log in, it can be right there, or within a click of a report, they can run something every week that tells them something. I know at a firm I was at, they had every Friday at 3:30, somebody ran a report of the call log notes from that week. And it wasn't a follow-up, but those were the first conversations that were going to be initiated on Monday morning to follow up on what had happened the week before. So it was just sort of that accountability. Everybody had to make sure they had their notes in, otherwise it didn't look like they necessarily made the touches that they had intended to. But I also would think that the timestamp on that was probably Friday at like 2:20. A lot of people did it by like 3:30, it was all in, but things like that can help different groups move forward that other groups won't be worried about. So those dashboards.
What I found interesting, we'll run a lot of reports for the proposal group because we don't do proposals, and we've been doing a lot of them lately. And I don't know what kind of facts and figures some of the guys, because it was mainly project managers that were doing those proposals. Like, we've done this many senior housing and this many millions. And I'm like, nope, you run it. It's a source of truth. And it's like, oh my God, they've so overinflated it. And how do you, make that look? And I'm like, no, this is the source of truth, or you guys are filling out bad data sheets then. So that has been kind of a little changing for some of our people that do proposals.
Yeah.
Well, and recognizing, and some will allow little tips as far as like tool tips you can put into helping with the information for different fields. But I know the firm had said for years, over 250 of this type of work. We've done over 250 tilt wall. Yeah, I don't know, example. And then after having been there for a couple of years, they're like, that number has to be bigger, say 300. I'm like, well, wait a minute. Are we talking sub projects? Like, maybe it is, but like, where did the 250 come from first to see the same logic, follow it? How many is it now? But just because we've been using that number for a long time, it's like, is there a dartboard somewhere we need to know about? That's the old school. The new school is the CRM system. So yeah, it's interesting how it really opens the eyes sometimes to what data has been used a lot, and people are loyal to what they've been saying. And it's just kind of putting the parameters around it and understanding what the data really is. And that the next one kind of ties in as far as empowering the team members and holding them accountable for using positive reinforcement, but holding them accountable to get the data in. And then like the individual, Denise, that did the actual record, it's like, that's huge. And the personalities to say, should you single them out and shine the bright light on them? Or do you just kind of kudos, here's a $5 gift card for that real fancy drink people have in Alaska? I don't know, but something as a reward, a carrot.
That was a Red Bull, is it smoothie? A Red Bull smoothie?
Slushy smoothie? It's something like that. Erica, do you remember?
She got all excited. And
I think it was a slushy, yeah. A Red Bull slushy.
Yeah.
Courtney had an opportunity to go up to Alaska, and she had heard about this particular drink that everybody was like, well, you've never had one? And no. So it was a thing. She had to find somebody to bring one in, I think, for her. But that might be a reward for a person that decided to be the trailblazer.
I'll bring that up. So far, we have not been giving rewards to anyone.
Yeah, and it's not about the expense on the company. It can just be a kudos. We had a squishy toy at a job a million years ago, and it was put on a desk as a kudos. And that was when you saw it. And again, we're in a virtual environment, so kind of have to picture that with hybrid employees coming through. But when you saw it on the desk, you knew that person had done something to be recognized, and that prompted a conversation. And, you know, it could have been as simple as help me carrying a box in the door when I couldn't, you know, unlock it, to, hey, you set up your first record and that's awesome. And then, you know, so again, it doesn't have to be a huge cost item just to recognize praise.
I do want to say, with Natalie in the room, she is the manager. She is probably the best kudos person that I've ever worked for. We meet weekly, and she has a way of doing things, which it's great now, and everybody has their way go-to tools because of Natalie. And she praises the team, I mean, for everything. I have come to my desk many times. There's a card there, a gift there, or just something, and it's like we all genuinely feel appreciated. So it does make a really big difference.
It does. You feel seen, I think.
Yeah,
you recognize that. And we start our calls internally, good news and kudos. And the kudos is a team member, and it could be thanking Erica for a social media post or something that I wasn't aware of that one of my clients doesn't do, but now I get to see how they touch their community. You know, it's the research she did, I learned something from. So it's just being seen. So I think this is, again, to circle back to that first question, it's about people and relationships internally, as well as what you're wanting them to do for the external client that helps everyone. But it is still seeing them and praise, I think.
Well, it's always like in our group, and I'm sure with everybody else who does the CRM, the proposal people get instant gratification. They win or lose. They have beautiful covers. Our communications group is putting out social media posts and PR, and we're the ones, I call us the blue collar workers, like putting in the data and the info and the accuracy so they can do their jobs. Like, we are part of winning a proposal, and the facts and figures, and now like the sales goals grid, like our executives have come to expect it, demand it, but we sit in the background and we're okay to not get it. But like you said, once in a while, you just need to be acknowledged, because it's not fun to data entry and clean up and fix and handhold every day, all day.
Right. Sure. It does. It wears, and it's not always, people start associating you reaching out to them with something that needs to get done, you know, and you're like, no, it's good. It's, you know, in that way, spinning the narrative. So it's like, I just wanted to say thank you for getting me that stuff. It's like, it's huge. So those are great ideas. Just a reminder, and good for you for being recognized, Natalie, for doing that. And the little cards and things, it's, I love paper and pens. So like, I love cards, but it's not everybody's thing. But even, you know, I saved emails that people had sent me. It's just, those are good, feel good buckets, you know? The next question here is broader, which is, do you have a centralized database that saves you time and money, increasing your profitability and efficiencies? And I know, Denise, you started this call by saying you have some bugs, but you can already see. Can you think of an example of what it is doing to make you more efficient, even in the now?
For one thing, we're not opening a proposal twice in the system. We can tell that it's already in there. I mean, if they check, and that's a big thing. We're getting much more accurate about following up and making sure our records for our wins, losses, drops, cancellations are more accurate. Before, we would have long lists and we would have no idea what happened to these. So, I mean, I have some from years past, and I mean, that's not a way to run a business. And it's just communication with the capture team. And that's the kind of stuff that I'm working on now, but also getting more accurate about who's involved, like who to go to, and the contracting officers that we deal with. Now we can do a list and say, okay, with this contracting officer, we've had her 6 times, and 4 times she gave us really high evaluations.
Yep.
Okay, so, and then by the opposite, we can tell if it's one who's given us bad. We know that too. We know it's going to be tougher.
No, that's huge. And recognizing if there are debrief notes, or what's the what is the pattern? You know, is there
patterns?
Is there competition? Well, there is competition, but is there certain competition that you find maybe you should align with on a project that works, so you guys can, end up playing in the same sandbox for a larger project. If you bring something, it's just thinking of it different, but you don't know until you gather those pieces of information, which again are usually in other people's heads, not yet in the system. So
another thing that kept coming up was I would open new opportunities over and over again for a particular client, and over again, I don't know why they didn't notice. We were not winning with this client. Out of 10 submittals, we only won once. And in my mind, why are we wasting our time with this, or what are we doing wrong? But something needs to be done. But so far it's not. But I mean, that's the kind of thing that we could start doing now that we have the information in the system all in one place, and we can organize.
And that could even be who's on the selection committee. Maybe that person that when the firm thinks of going after a project for that particular client, warm fuzzies, but you can't win. So who's the person that we need to see on that selection committee? And if they're not there, it's a scrutinized no-go. Convince me we should go, because this pattern has resulted in this, result. And that's relying less on emotion, more on the, data. Therefore, it is not subjective. It is just, here's what it shows, Yeah. If we have two competing deadlines, which one should we put our resources toward?
Although a dream report would be that we could get the system to put out the report every, say, Friday, and just put by client and how many proposals, how many wins, how many losses for this year, or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's doable.
Yeah, very much so, especially once it's all in there. If people are bringing in opportunities that end up being canceled or dropped, or, you see those frequency of changes in the system, then you can start deciding, who's really gathering the information, a training opportunity, how are you getting the information better from some than others that result in better proposals. It's just all sharing and getting the report out so that you can get it timely. That's the other big thing. Like you were saying, weekly, it's not something you talk about every quarter because too much goes by. The final question, in the few minutes we have left, we kind of touched on, but formally to ask it, do you celebrate adoption and utilization successes at each step of the way along your CRM journey? There's, I saw a talk Courtney gave a long time ago, and it was talking about there's so much overwhelm. You just want to be whelmed, you don't want to be overwhelmed by it all. And if there are initiatives to change what data is getting captured, just putting small milestones so you can celebrate. I bribe myself with grapes or candy sometimes if I have a long task that I know is just going to be a lot of repetitive. I get, or like a road trip kind of mentality. I'll reward myself at certain points just because I'm like, I made it that far. Just a mile marker. I think we all watch the spinny wheel and don't know how long it's going to take till it's done. And that big jack-in-the-box surprise doesn't always do everybody's heart real well. So letting people know as you kick off different initiatives or advance into another module or another way of looking at the system to celebrate the successes. Does anyone have any closing thoughts either on that last question or just kind of today's content as a whole as far as executing the vision for the CRM?
I'm glad we got ours.
Yeah, it definitely, to think back of what it was before and, for resume building and how many different descriptions and square feet and dollars and, no consistency, and then feeling like you've changed the same things over and over again, or that person moved to that other firm. And, you're just like, what if I wasn't reading it? Who would be finding all these things? At least now there's, that's obviously my personal experience, but those type things, you're like, okay, I trust what comes out of it. And if not, it's open on the other screen. Let's change it now because I know that person's not at that firm anymore. So let's not use them as a reference, making the updates timely. Definitely. Well, thank you all so much for setting aside part of your time today. It stopped raining because that's how we do it here in Dallas. And so I am glad that didn't overwhelm any of the sounds. And next month, we'll talk about chapter 9. And Gail, I will check on the status of that book, but chapter 9.
It was being sent to me from a friend. So
from a friend. Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, heck, I was trying to gift you one, but okay.
I know. I won't argue with that either.
All right. Well, all right. Then I'll rephrase my email then. Okay. Protect your business intelligence is next conversation. So enjoy the book if you have it, and we'll talk to you all next month.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Good luck.
Bye.
Bye.